So what I was asking you to do is, imagine that you're in this place in Leicester, and you're having lunch at Torres Express. Zohar time has come in, and you need to go and pray. So just plan your trip to your nearest mosque where you can go and pray. Look at the blue and green comment boxes. Those are mosques. Right? Everyone know where they're going to pray? More or less. So, okay, now do that trip as a woman from Torres Express. The red rings are where you can't pray. A little bit longer? It's a little bit of a longer trip, right? I'm going to refer to these as red ring mosques, because these are also places where they won't necessarily have signposting to let women know there's no space to pray. So a lot of the experiences that come through are also about falling upon these mosques and being told in not always such a nice way that there's no space for you here. And this is really interesting, because I think a lot of us will know that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said in no uncertain terms, do not stop women from going to Allah's mosques. And there's a really interesting story behind this as well. This was narrated in Bukhari by Ibn Umar. His own son stood up and then said, well, I'm not going to let my wife go to the mosque. To which he rose up very angry and said, who are you to stop what the Prophet ﷺ did not stop? Who are you? And in one narration, he even slapped his son quite hard. So this is a good story for me to bring up here, because it just goes to show how, what a strange place we're in, where that, where this is the case, where there is red ring mosques. And actually, England is kind of almost unique in having no facilities for women. So 37% of our mosques, according to Muslims in Britain, who do surveys every 2 years, have no facilities for women. Of those who do have facilities, not all of them will have space for women to pray. And also of those who do have facilities, they are quite often reported to us as second-class facilities. So when I talk about this problem, a lot of people say, yes, but I know an amazing mosque, and that's great, and we want people to tell us about those amazing mosques, because those are our leaders. But we have to really appreciate what the size of this problem is for women who, going about their day-to-day lives, need to pray like men, but also need community. So this is why we set up Open My Mosque in 2015. I've got the hashtag at the bottom if you guys would like to share your stories there. But I wanted to share a few stories from women first, for whom the mosque has not even been a prayer space. So today we're going to talk about more than a prayer space, and I will talk about those stories too, from what we've received on Open My Mosque. But these first ones are about what is a mosque like when it's not even a prayer space, because we have to accept that this is the case for a lot of women. This is not an untypical one. This woman says, I used to watch my mum being shouted at just because she wanted to pray at the mosque. And she's kind of grown up then with this dread of going to the mosque. So this comes back to us quite often. I dread going to the mosque. And what a horrible association when, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, women even pitched up tents in the mosque. This is a difficult thing for me to hear personally. Is another one here where she says, it's just not, I've stopped even trying to go to the mosque because it's not worth the heartache. And a lot of this comes from that knocking on many doors and being rejected in a way it's humiliating. It's another word that's come up to us. When they're just seeking to do their fard, or seeking community, as in the next case. So this person had just taken her shahada, and she said she felt disappointed and deflated when visiting a mosque. And the reason she gave was she had several failed attempts where they did have space for women. Sometimes the door was locked on her. Other times it felt like in the architecture speaks of your mosques as well, of our mosques, And if you put up lots of stairs out of the way, there's this kind of feeling that we just, want to close off the women. There's not a space for us. So she's left feeling like there's no place for me. She's a new Muslim who feels like there's no place for her. And then finally, actually I'll skip over that one. There's the 81-year-old Muslim, and she's very lonely. So she says, not only do I have accessibility issues in these mosques, up lots of stairs or down lots of stairs, but I'm really lonely, and I wish there was just a place for me to be there. So there's sort of lack of community as well. So not only are there not even prayer spaces, where they can feel second class, or the architecture of the mosque can tell you that this really isn't for you. And people can be left feeling isolated and lonely as a result. These are just some places where women pray instead of praying in the mosque in those cases. But what about the good stories? I did say we'd talk about where mosques are more than a prayer space. And this is really important because There are many mosques who are trying to change, and there are many mosques who are doing well, and it's important to talk about what they're doing to help us improve, to work towards this. And so the Fatima Centre gets mentioned a lot, because remember this thing about the architecture can make you feel excluded. Well, it actually makes people feel very included. The lifts and the Centre for the Deaf really make a big statement about who's included here. The second place is Exeter Mosque. They did an International Women's Day celebration. So it's a very obvious way of celebrating women. And being very obvious about celebrating women can help when you're a mosque who's only just starting to let women in as well, because it's sort of saying, not only do we now let you in, but we celebrate you being here. You're not up some stairs out of the way. And finally, we have Khadija Mosque, who are here today, over there, if you want to speak to them. They've got an excellent mosque. They've come up a few times. This is the same sister who took her Shahada, found the Khadija Mosque, and it's not very near to her. It's in the next city, but she said they're so welcoming and helpful, you feel part of the family. They do coffee mornings, and they have celebrations for people taking their Shahada. So there's a real welcoming into the community and a keeping in the community. So to finish off, if you want to open up your mosque space a little bit more, or you want your mosque spaces around you to open, how can you open up your mosque space? Well, I would say, first of all, be fierce like Ibn Umar. You know, if people aren't letting you pray, go in and pray, that's your right. And know what your rights are. If it feels like a second-class space, write to the mosque. You'll be surprised how often mosques respond. If they don't respond the first time, keep going, because we've already heard about the low resources. We need to make ourselves high priority. Go in and meet them, talk to them, and ask them for actual action points. And know what your rights are Islamically and in British law. And if you're a mosque space, make space to celebrate women. Show them, like this International Women's Day celebration, that this is a place for you. And also welcome the stranger, you know, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, because the more people you welcome, the more that women are going to feel this is not a red ring mosque. I don't need to have dread coming towards this mosque. I can see its doors are open. That is all I have to say.